Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, fans of Sky Tier. I am RG Commander. Welcome to the September Semifinals qualifying match for the World Championships. Joining me in the booth today is Korea, also known as Ryan. Good afternoon, Ryan.
Good afternoon, Commander. Very excited here for this hopefully exciting game of Sky Tier between Pythonor6 and Aethusium.
Indeed. So, we played the beginnings of the September qualifier on Sunday, and we've decided now to finish the game off due to the fact that some of our semifinalists were Europeans, and it was going on about 1 to 2 p.m. 1 to 2 a.m. in the morning for them. We decided to delay it a little bit, so we are going to finish off the qualifying rounds here. As we mentioned, we have Aethusium and Pythonor here in game number 1. Clinton versus Zambo in game number 2. The second semifinal match will be done shortly after this game concludes, so we have a lot of Sky Tier content for you today.
Yes, and so they have already begun drafting. Before we talk about the draft, we'll talk about the victory conditions. We have the Tamer. Defeat 2 enemy heroes using an outsider. Onslaught, defeat 3 enemy heroes. And Right Breach, destroy the enemy tower on your right lane. So, probably going to see... The Tamer doesn't happen a whole lot, so I'm going to guess we'll see an Onslaught or a Right Breach here.
Alright, I am going to actually... Given that Pythonor is bringing the now somewhat infamous Suicide Squad deck, I'm actually going to disagree and say that... actually, I lied. I'm going to say that we'll see Onslaught. I think the Tamer is unlikely. I think that even though we do have the OG Outsider, he'll mostly just be used to soften people up. I expect that Onslaught will potentially be the victory condition, as Pythonor is bringing the Suicide Squadron, Aethusium is bringing a mono-yellow squadron.
Yes. And Pythonor won the coin toss and chose to go first.
Yes.
So he started with Frail, Astrida, and Shillaby as his first 3 heroes. And Aethusium, using the mono yellow list, took Akudi, Shafathi, Kenwi, and Setharu.
It's going to be a long game with this, isn't it?
And Pythonor's last hero is Brovar, which to me is actually a interesting pick. As Pythonor and I built this deck together, I know that deck very well. Brovar is the hero that has all of the charms in his deck, and usually I say we don't really like to bring him against yellow because charms are not usually that useful against yellow, and they have 2 mages. And we did see Aethusium bring 2 mages, so
indeed.
I'm a little curious by that pick.
Well, we'll see what happens. So while we're waiting to see how that plays out, since you know that deck very well, we'll get into that a little bit more later. Let's see what kind of cards we can expect from Aethusium's side. So Kenwi brings Psychic Shield, Nourish, Chasms, and Redirect. Setharu is bringing, as expected, Shatterminds, Nightmares Incarnate, and a Soul Scream. Shafathi bringing 2 more Psychic Shields, some Exhaustions, Dooms, and a Refract. And Ekrit bringing Swiftnests, Redirects, and Ice Walls. Oh, he brought Akudi, so we actually don't care what Ekrit brought. Whoops. Wrong hero, let's try this again. Akudi is bringing Charms and Presences, which I think will be very effective against the Suicide Squad.
Yeah, for sure. Presence can be very useful, and Charm especially useful. And Shafathi has the Dooms and Exhaustions, other cards that can be very useful against the Suicide Squad.
Yes.
Other thing relevant is Kenwi's Illusion can make it very difficult to get off multiple revenge triggers in a row as long as that illusion is there. So lots of counters in this yellow deck for the Suicide Squad.
Indeed. So we'll see what happens here as Pythonor will be activating for his first hero. Brovar, it looks like. Kind of juggling the active token around. Typically, a lot of mono blue opens involve Brilvar shapeshifting either Astrida or Freyhill, moving into the dome and leading, but it looks like Astrida herself is actually going to go first. Interesting.
Yeah, usually when we use a Suicide Squad, we like to go assuming we're going for a huge dome fight, I usually like to go with Frail first, bring her in, worship and lead. Astrida can also do a similar play, which is just as fine, but it looks like Pythoner is trying to put a little bit of pressure on the lane.
Indeed. Alright, down goes a minion. Worship, move, worship, attack means that we can sacrifice 2 hit points off Astrida, spawn a minion, which makes it 3-1 in Control Zone 1 on the right lane. From our perspective.
Yeah. I'm still interested by that Brovar pick. I would have gone with Goldgarn there. But he's the one who's in the semifinals, not me.
It's true. To be fair, though, you are a huge proponent of Brilvar just because of the massive amount of skirmish damage that can happen on turn 2 and turn 3.
Goldgarn, yeah.
Goldgarn, yes. And which, again, to be fair, is a perfectly justifiable reason. I've seen the air sign bear swipes deal upwards of 14 damage from one skirmish and then be able to repeat the action, given that Rampant Hatred gives you a free skirmish attack and deal massive, if not fatal, damage to multiple heroes. So it is a good decision to have.
Yes, but Brilvar providing extra armor can be very useful too. Obviously not against the mages.
Right.
Can still be useful, and if he is trying to actually go for the lanes here, which if he is, I'm curious why he didn't choose Egret, but if he is trying to focus on the lanes here, then Brilvar can also force him to attack him instead of the minions too. So Brilvar is obviously a very good hero, and I'm sure he can do very good things with Brilvar just as well. Indeed.
Alright, so we see Akuti moving in now. She's going to attack and destroy the minion, and then destroy the other minion. Akuti's worship ability allows for the destruction of a minion after she resolves an attack action if the minion is adjacent to her illusion. And noticing the positioning of her illusion token there, I suspect that she's setting it up so that she can give that passive armor to other members of the Nupton Squadron.
Potentially. So here's the other thing. Aethusium's right lane, which is the right breach condition, is lane 1, so he does have the advantage towards right breach.
Yes.
So I was talking about trying to go for a dome battle, but I think Pythoner was trying to play it safe and send Astrida over there to kind of help defend that lane early. He doesn't want to lose to right breach.
Right.
I think he is going for the onslaught, but he wants to not lose before he wins.
Absolutely. All right, so we see that Freyhill is going to move lead, and I assume probably worship or attack. She is going to lead from the hand. Worship, there we go. We see the worship action. Now, will it be on herself or on Astrida? It will be on herself. Okay.
Yep.
All right, so again, as you mentioned, reinforcing that lane 1 such that he doesn't lose to the right breach. As right now, Pythoner, if we assume that the lead from hand was worth a 3, Pythoner has a control value of 5 versus Aethusium's 2. So Aethusium will either have to concede the token moving towards his tower or send a second hero there to reinforce.
That hero positioning is also... The heroes are not the easiest places for Aethusium to get to.
Correct.
I mean, he can do several actions, obviously. It just looks like that's what he's doing here. Move, skirmish, yep.
Mm-hmm.
So probably going in. And a common strategy we've seen against the Suicides recently... Oh, never mind. I was going to say a common strategy we've seen against the Suicide Squad recently is taking out Frail first, but he's going after Astrida.
So I assume the benefits there is if Astrida's low enough, and it happens to be the case that Pythoner doesn't have any healing cards in his hand, Astrida will not be able to just flood the lanes with her minions.
Oh, the reason he's going after Astrida is because Frail is... Oh, no.
Also...
Shillaby is out of range. I was going to say Revenge, but Shillaby's not in range for Revenge anyway. So
correct. Yep, Shillaby's Revenge does require you to be within range 3, of which both of those characters actually fail. So... The other thing that he could be doing is potentially setting Astrida up to kill her off in turn 2 after she activates, which means that he can avoid the turn 3 Song of the Siren, Astrida's ultimate, which just instantly exhausts a hero.
That's very true, and It looks like Aethusium is really trying to focus down that right lane too. Getting rid of Astrida is a strong play if you're trying to push a lane, because that is Pythoner's main control lane pushing hero. So it's possible that it isn't going to be an onslaught that we were talking about, or he's trying to, taking out that hero first and also going to pressure the lane at the same time, which is also very strong.
Indeed. All right, so it looks like Brilvar is going to go into the dome here. Moving 3, actually, it looks like. Nope, maybe 2, maybe 3. Hard to say. Pythoner is having a decision here.
I think he's thinking about skirmishing Brilvar into the lane, or deciding whether he wants to keep Brilvar in the dome.
Exactly, yeah. With the original outsider being the master of this particular game's dome, controlling him will give your team a free worship action if you so choose, as well as the ability to draw more cards. And so it is worth fighting for, but as you mentioned earlier, not necessarily the lane to give up. You don't want to give up lane 1 right away, because that is Aethusium's win condition. So Brilvar is going to lead in the dome, however. We assume again with the 3.
Yep, and then he's going to shapeshift Astrida, as I thought he would, because Astrida could use some healing and an armor boost.
Yes. Freyhill's ability will allow Astrida to heal. Only 2 hit... Oh, no, that's a -1, so Astrida's actually not going to heal at all.
Yeah, he did not want to see that. But
no.
Notably, that lead was from hand, so yes. I would say it is highly unlikely that we're going to see a turn 1 presence. I
would agree with that. Now, the question here is, do you activate Cytheru here and potentially nuke Astrida, or do you go ahead and have Kenwi begin to do Kenwi things?
Could you sound a little more excited when you say her name?
No. I think we have made it very clear how much this hero offends me.
About what you were saying about Cytheru going after Astrida, Kenwi would need to move first before Cytheru can do that, because Kenwi is in his way.
Ah, that is a fair point.
So Kenwi is going to activate here, which makes sense.
Yep. All right, so she's going to go into the dome. It looks like she will be Brilvar's opponent here to contest the dome. Worship to summon her illusion, which means that she can now not be targeted as long as she is adjacent to it.
Cannot be targeted by attack.
Excuse me, yes, by attack actions.
Targeted by other things, such as revenges.
Yes.
Not sure we'll be seeing any of those this game, right? No revenges?
Absolutely not. This is certainly not going to be a revenge game from the deck that took revenging to a whole new level.
Yeah, definitely not.
All right, so there we go. We finished the action with the lead. So presumably right now the dome is tied at 4-4, we assume, unless one of the players is opting to try and bluff, which is, of course, completely possible. So the question now becomes, do we send Shalavi into the dome, or do we continue to focus on lane 1, or do we try to get lane 2 going, as lane 2 is the right breach condition for Pythoner?
I think he goes into the dome. Probably goes with I'm going to guess a move and then a skirmish. Probably move, skirmish into Kenwi, maybe, and then probably worship on herself, would be my guess.
All right. You would okay.
Or actually, no, because that's too far away, yeah. He probably wishes he could attack Kenwi, but that can't happen.
Nope. Can we attack her? No, we can't. I have a whole slew of Kenwi related jokes locked and loaded and ready to go. I'm just waiting to deploy them whenever the conditions are correct. All right, so looks like Shalavi is going to go into the dome, concentrating the blue blob.
Yep, that makes more sense since you're getting a skirmish on Kenwi, getting Shalavi over to that side because of revenge triggers. That makes a lot more sense.
Now everybody has the ability to proc their revenge, assuming that they are shapeshifted.
Yeah. Now, either Brilvar or Shalavi is going to not be shapeshifted.
Correct. Although it looks like she's going to skirmish. So
Yeah, just moving 1 hex more.
okay. Can't attack Shafathi as the white line prevents line of sight, even with Astrida next to her in the other cover hex, and Frail as well, I suppose. And so there's the worship action, and the worship action will be on herself? Herself, yes. All right, so Shillavi is now worshipped.
Yes, on herself.
Yep. All right, so Cytheru has the dubious honor of the final activation of the round. And so in this case, Cytheru, I think, has to decide, does he go into the dome and contest, or do we try to punish Astrida?
I think he goes into the dome. I don't think he wants to lose the dome and give Pythoner an outsider activation. Yep, I think he probably gets the illusion out maybe, and then does an attack and maybe a Shattermind or something.
Okay. All right, I'm getting a bit of feedback from the chat. Apparently my audio is a little bit loud compared to yours, and we have some clipping going on. So I've turned down my audio, so please let us know if that's a little bit better. I'm not certain what the clipping is, but we will pay attention to see if that's continues to happen. So please, we are keeping an eye on the chat, so please do update us on how the audio and the visual feed is, and we will try to make any corrections that we can. Meanwhile, we do see the move, skirmish, attack actions coming here from Cytheru, and it looks like the answer is we are going to pummel Astrida.
Yep, and Astrida is going to revenge on Shafathi, dealing 1 damage to him. It's very possible we'll see an end of turn sacrifice or something. Oh,
Shattermind! She's down to 3. Cytheru does not have his illusion out, so that's not going to be enough to kill her.
Yep, and that'll be another revenge, this time for 2.
Alright.
Did they do the first one?
Yes, the first one. I don't think they moved his HP though. Because I think I saw the flip, but I don't think they did anything regarding moving Shafathi's HP.
1 sec. I need to get rid of that for a second
Sure.
so I can message.
All right, so Tim Bun says that we're getting the double thumbs up, so it looks like things are fixed. So hopefully that'll be all well and good. Oh! The answer for the first one, the armor. Akuti's illusion provided Cytheru or Shafathi with 1 armor.
Yeah, never mind.
Yep,
you're
right. Thank you for that call out. We did indeed forget about that. I even spoke about Akuti's armor projection and then immediately forgot about it. I apologize for that.
Yeah.
All right. So, meanwhile, as we suspected, there was a slight win by 2 in lane 1 for Pythoner. Lane 2 was a total draw, and lane 3 also goes in Pythoner's favor. So now the outsider comes onto the field. This particular outsider, as we know, does have to lay across the perimeter of the dome. So we need 2 hexes inside the dome, 1 outside, or 2 outside, 1 inside for it to spawn.
Yep. And it looks like Joe is still trying to decide, Pythoner's trying to decide where exactly he wants to place that.
Indeed. So in addition to being able to target a friendly hero to take a worship action and draw a card, this particular outsider also has the Shockwave ability, which may allow you to deal 0 plus a flip damage, but more importantly, push a hero to hexes. So in this case, Pythoner may use this to force an unfavorable position for one of the heroes.
Well, it would have been really cool. That positioning doesn't allow because it's a little too far away, but he could have pushed Kenway all the way over to the other lane where she's basically irrelevant.
Great plan.
Yeah.
Keep Kenway irrelevant again.
Kenway irrelevant?
Keeping Kenway irrelevant again is a great plan anytime. Alright, so now that it looks like we've got the outsider positioned, however, that's also a very good blocking element as well, something else that I think you were touching on. Given that the outsider does occupy 3 hexes, you can also use him just positionally to stop the enemy heroes from being able to maneuver. All right, so it looks like Akuti has been targeted with
That's Setharu.
Or Setharu, excuse me. Setharu has been targeted and taking 3 damage, so based on the -1 flip, it looks like that was a regular attack, I assume?
That was a +1 flip, and yes.
Oh, +1 flip, excuse me. I can't read cards.
Reading is hard.
It is true. Reading time zones, all of these things are difficult. All right, Shafathi is now being targeted with something. +1 on the flip there. This looks like to be the shockwave ability based on the fact that he's moving. Yep, okay, so Shafathi has been kicked all the way over there and will take 1 point of damage. It is piercing damage, so it ignores the armor provided by Akuti's illusion.
Yep, and more relevantly, from Python's perspective, is Shafathi is no longer adjacent to Astrida, so Astrida is now hidden in the cover hex.
Yes.
And when you have a hero at 1 HP, being hidden is kind of useful.
It's true. Now, that being said, Shafathi is known for mobility as well, which means that unless Astrida is healed up, she is very likely about to die anyway. We shall see what happens, though. If there are a number of nourishes and sacrifices in Pythoner's hands, actually, I'm going to say that there's at least 1 sacrifice in Pythoner's hand. I'm going to make that prediction because whenever the shockwave was going off, Shafathi was initially being moved to the other hex that he could be. In other words, down and to the left of the cover hex instead of immediately to the left. But then Pythoner put him right next to Freyhill. So if Freyhill plays the sacrifice, that would allow her to proc the revenge trigger against him, being that he's now adjacent to her. So I'll bet that there's at least 1 sacrifice in Pythoner's hand.
That would make sense. I'm not sure what the third thing he did. He did the attack and the shockwave.
I'm going to guess he probably drew a card.
I think he had 4 cards in hand at end of turn, though. He played 2 leads. I don't think he had 2 leads from hand. I don't think he played any cards. So
you're right. Okay, so...
And he had all of his heroes shapeshifted except for Brilvar.
Right.
Maybe it was just a skirmish?
Could be. We seem to have missed out on what the third action... Oh, there it is. Okay. To confirm...
No.
Oh, no, this is the next turn activation. We're in turn 2. Never mind. So this is Shalavi going to start off the battle with a skirmish there.
So I'm going to guess that Pythoner definitely has a heal. Otherwise, he probably would have gone with the Astrida first, so
yes.
That way she could get another shapeshift.
I agree.
And heal a little bit from Frail.
Meanwhile, this is the problem with running mages. They come out into the open and they're easily... Oh! And here comes the exhaustion. Excellent.
Yep, that's going to turn that shapeshift into likely a disarm, especially considering it's in response to an attack.
Yes. Exhaustion, one of the new cards that came out with the Ashen Pass. Very nice to see this. I think that one of the things we can definitely say here, Aethusium definitely did his research on his opponent and definitely came with a deck that is prepared to combat Suicide Squad.
I mean, he's using the same deck he was using for the entire tournament on Sunday.
All right, and there's the disarm on Shalavi, as you predicted. And okay, now Astrida's going to play Charm in response to that to at least remove the disarm from Shalavi.
Correct. So, and then going to flip a +1 and a -1 for 5 damage with the 1 armor from Akuti's illusion. Sethu's going to lose 4 and go down to 7.
All right, so still reasonably healthy here. Final action, do you think will just be another worship then to regain the shapeshift ability?
Yeah, I think that's probably pretty likely. Skirmish. Yeah, I don't think there's any other thing that he would do with that. Maybe lead, but I think he wants to do the shapeshift here. I could see a lead though. That would not be completely unreasonable.
Now, one of the other things to consider as well, do you think that if he doesn't have a sacrifice in hand for Astrida, do you think perhaps he has a chasm ready? Such that when Shafathi moves over in range with Astrida, he just get, or a sinkhole, either one would be effective here, that you can just push him away.
I was thinking about that too. He does have the Sky Turf Flux, so he can do that. And the last action was, as we predicted, a a warship to shapeshift herself.
Oh.
And we have Pythoner using the Flux in response to a skirmish from Shafathi.
Okay, there's the sinkhole. Yep, that sinkhole is going to keep Astrida safe.
And also is going to keep Shafathi out of range of...
out of range of the control zone for the... Nah, you can still get in the control zone.
I'm not sure where was the center.
So the center, I believe, was the cover hex, such that Shafathi would only be able to move around the one hex directly below and to the right of the tower, where he is currently, down one to the right, and then to the right of that. So there's essentially a 5 hex movement room. Meanwhile, Shafathi is going to take 5 damage. 4 damage.
I think if he made if he made the cover hex a center, he actually can get in range of that control token.
Yes, there's 2 hexes that he is able to. The bottom 2 of the...
If he had chose the hex between the cover hex and the tower, he could have prevented Shafathi from getting into range.
Correct. Yes.
So I'm not sure what was actually chosen there.
Mm-hmm. Well, based on the pings and the way that the hands were moving, I believe that the cover hex was selected as the center.
I think so too, which seems like a probably a little bit of an oversight on Pythoner's part.
Yeah. Also, the fact that Aethusium is considering... Wait a minute. He didn't target the center hex being where Shafathi was originally, did he?
I don't think so.
I know he pinged it, but I assumed that ping was the point of the target, and then he replaced the AoE elsewhere.
Right. I have no idea where the center is.
All right. I think the center is the cover hex, because based on where he was moved and then where he has moved to, all of that would point to the cover hex being the center.
Yeah.
All right.
I think that was a very slight misplay on Pythoner's part, because now Shafathi is able to lead in range of the control token.
And also, we now have Shafathi's illusion on the field. So, since Shafathi is one of the lesser seen yellow heroes, let's go ahead and remind ourselves what Shafathi's abilities are. Projected heroes declaring skirmish actions allow for a predict 1. And Shafathi himself, whenever he resolves a skirmish, may swap positions with his illusion token.
Notably, that swap comes after he finishes the skirmish. So
yes.
He still gets to do I'll do the whole skirmish first and then swap.
And placing that illusion right there into the cover hex there, where he would then be able to be adjacent to Astrida. Now, obviously, he doesn't have any bonus cards that would allow for a second skirmish action in his deck, but it is useful to set up for future plays in the round.
So... I think Pythoner probably goes with Astrida next, so Astrida gets to shapeshift, but I'm not sure. It's possible. Oh, the last flip that Pythoner had was a Song of the Siren.
Yes.
It's possible that maybe he won't activate Astrida and is just gonna have her die before activating, so she can come back next round.
Agreed, and given now that Aethusium has seen Song of the Siren, he doesn't need to worry so much about Astrida reviving turn 3, because he knows that Pythoner would have to cycle through his deck plus then find the card before Song of the Siren becomes an issue, and so killing him off before killing her off before she activates isn't as much of a concern now.
Yeah.
Also worth noting...
It's possible he goes Brilvar, skirmishes next to Kenwee, leads and warships. Just locks her. No, I don't think he wants to do that. He wants to keep Brilvar close to the other heroes, I think.
Right. Similar to
yeah.
Yeah, similar to Akudi's projection, Brovar will provide the blue team with 1 armor point. Again, obviously, that armor point matters a little bit less to Aethusium due to the fact that 2 of his heroes do piercing damage. But at least for Akudi and for Kenwi, that is more damage reduction from the 2 of them.
Correct. Pythoner is thinking long and hard about how what he wants to do here. I'm guessing maybe he's gonna go with Frail here and just try and kill Sether.
That's probably a reasonable play here, given that Freyhill is shapeshifted. She does have piercing, and Cythero's only got 7 HP. If he has any kind of a healing card in hand, Skirmish Attack and Magic card will kill off Cythero unless something is able to be done by Aethusium. Now, Aethusium did discard a few Psychic Shields at the beginning of the game, if I remember correctly. Crap.
The one problem with that is that Frail did use all of her mana on Sinkhole already, so she.
That's true. You're right. I did forget about that. And also,
I believe he mulliganed 3 Psychic Shields from the opening hand.
He did, yes.
2 in the first flip.
I can't remember precisely, but in either case, yes, all 3 Psychic Shields are indeed in his discard. Meanwhile, there we go. There's the first, the Skirmish, the attack. Cythera is down to 3 HP. And so, well, I guess he lives. She can't heal him to death. So is the final action a worship? Is the final action a lead?
You know, before Frail Skirmish, she was already in range of Sether, so he could have gone with the attack and the Skirmish. And, I mean, unless that's where you wanted Frail to end up anyway.
Mm-hmm.
He might go with the lead here, especially when he doesn't have the mana for any heals right now.
Oh, he's going to go for a move, actually. Interesting. Is he going into the dome? No, he's going right next to Cythera.
No, not sure what that...
Okay. Interesting.
Not sure what he's doing here.
Because that would... See, the positioning there, especially... Like, right now, as it stands right now, Astrida is actually fairly well protected. Cythera would have to use both the move and the skirmish in order to see her, but now with that opening, with moving right there, you can just skirmish Cythera and then pop Astrida.
If he... I kind of like the spot that he had her in.
Right. In the cover hex, or you mean the one...
In the cover hex.
Yes.
Where on top of Shafati's illusion.
Right, because that also has the added effect of making so you can't let Shafathi use his teleport action.
Either that, or just inside the dome adjacent to Cythera across that white line.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Interesting position.
He also wasted an action that turn. He could have used the skirmish to move to that hex and still had an action to lead or worship.
Mm-hmm. I'm looking here. So normally that positioning, one might be wary of a stone barricade coming out. Somehow, actually, I guess it wouldn't matter because Brovar would be the only one to stone barricade, and you can't block that off at this point.
Also, there's an illusion there already.
Well, no, I meant you could put it in the right most part of the dome and block it off, but regardless, that doesn't matter. So Cythera is going to march his way in with the skirmish. We see the +1 on the flip. Dead Astrida.
Yep, and no nourish there from Astrida either. So It looks like Pythoner is having the same problem he tends to have a lot, which is where he's really bad at drawing heals.
Indeed, which is surprising considering that out of 32 cards, if we include... Well, we won't include Freyhill's Ult since that's a little bit more situational, but there are 6 healing cards in the deck, so almost 1/5 of the deck is healing.
Yeah, 4 of them have already been flipped though.
So there's only 2 remaining.
2 nourish and 2 sacrifice, and Astrida can't cast sacrifice.
Correct.
So, and Freya already used the Sinkhole, so it's possible he has the sacrifice in hand already.
But if that were the case, you'd think that you wanted either Shalavi or... Oh, no, because he used the sinkhole, not the chasm. Excuse me. Never mind. So, yeah, Freyhill had to use the sinkhole.
Now, Now, if he did have a sacrifice, it might have made sense for him to activate Astrida or Brovar before Freyhill there, so that way he could get one of them in line of sight of the other, to allow for a sacrifice play from Brovar.
Mm-hmm. All right, final action, we're going to move, or the final actions, we're going to move and we're going to attack. So we're going to go after Shalavi here, which does make plenty of sense. And a +2 on the flip, very nice. That's going to deal a nice little chunk of her HP, bringing her down to 13 hit points.
And Sethru is in a safe place in the cover hex, but also in a hex that doesn't have line of sight to any control token.
Correct. Now, Brovar can reach him if he so chooses with a move and a skirmish. So, although there is 1 armor point, it is, I would say, reasonable that Brovar could kill him. With a skirmish and an attack, he would need to do essentially a total of 5 damage between the two. So you would need a little bit high on the flips if you wanted to try and kill Sethru here.
I don't think there's any reason to do that, though.
Mm-hmm.
With Sethru not in range of any control token,
mm-hmm.
he doesn't need to worry about Sethru now. He can win the outsider. He can't actually hit Sethru with the outsider because Sethru is in the cover hex. We just have the first activation next round. So
right.
I think he can ignore Sethru for now, unless he's worried about Sethru's ultimate coming out at the beginning of next round.
Right. Final Judgment is a reaction speed. Oh, no, it's not. It's not a reaction. It's an action. I was going to say, if Final Judgment was a reaction, that would be a little bit absurd.
Yeah, this is kind of what I was thinking here. He's gonna do a presence with Brovar and just try and control the dome here.
Mm-hmm. Well, with the presence in play, even if Akuti moves into the dome to support Kenwi, at best the dome then can be a push. Assuming, of course, that Brovar does have a 3-mana lead. So, which...
I was looking at a really cool play that Python can do, but it's just 1 hex away from working. But I was thinking we could use the Shockwave from Shilavi to push Shilavi adjacent to Sethru to give line of sight for the outsider to kill Sethru. But the outsider would be 1 hex too far away for that.
Right, yeah, Shockwave does say you can deal to target heroes, so you could push them then, I guess. Interesting. That would be an interesting use. And would certainly, in fact, fulfill the name Suicide Squad.
Yeah, now what he could do is he could use Shockwave to push Shilavi adjacent to Sethru, and if the Shockwave deals damage, that would put a revenge trigger on the stack, which could, if he flips a +2, kill Sethru.
Well, no. You need a +3. Sethru has 1 armor.
Ah, yes, that is true.
Because of Akuti's illusion.
Yep. I mean, either way, that is probably not the correct play, even if he did only need a +2.
But it looks cool! You get style points for doing that kind of a play.
Oh, yeah. You'd have to be a real degenerate to do that kind of play.
Yeah, seriously, what kind of person would do that? Alright, so meanwhile, finishing up the turn, so Brovar did take advantage of the predict, and we see that he has led from the deck as a result, so we can presume that is almost certainly going to be a 3-mana card for the lead from the deck. Aethusium is going to go ahead and worship, so now we have the fun part where 2 miniatures are on the same token, or on the same hex, they stick to each other like glue, and it becomes terrible to separate them. And so there we go, we have Akuti. Aethusium will now attack. And my guess is... Okay, we'll go ahead and destroy the minions. Now with 2 minions gone, Aethusium can send Akuti into the dome, and he does have presences himself on the Akuti. There are 3 presences in his deck, which means that if he has one, he could then send her into the dome, and with some help from Kenwi, wrest the control of the dome away from Brovar. So we have a question from the chat. You can move the outsider? No. You could move the outsider when hunting for power is in play. However, this particular outsider cannot be moved under any circumstances, as it is very large and in charge. But what Kurito and I were hypothesizing was using the Shockwave ability to actually push one of your heroes as opposed to an enemy hero. And because of Shalavi's positioning, you could push her back too, such that she then becomes adjacent to Cytheru and the cover hex, and use the revenge trigger to potentially deal damage to Cytheru there. Meanwhile, Kenway is going to play a charm on Brilvar. Interesting. So Brilvar's taunt will force Kenway to waste her attack action on him immediately, but the charm will at least remove the shapeshifted ability and thus reduce Brilvar's armor by 1.
No,
that's not it.
The charm was on the end of Akuti's turn, so
yes.
Kenry does not have to attack Brilvar.
Yes, thank you. I made that mistake there. I just realized that as soon as I saw the turn order of the action there. I made a mistake there. So we then have the skirmish action, so Kenry will actually go over into this dome. Interesting.
Yep. I'm guessing that Aethusium either didn't have the presence or didn't want to devote both heroes to the dome, so
correct.
He's just gonna take the lane that he can get.
Yes. All right. So we're going to lead from the deck as well. So in this case, we're actually going to see lane 2 move towards. Now, and Shafati plays Nightmares Incarnate to end the round. Very nice. So this will still do piercing damage. Shafati is a mage, albeit a melee one. So Shafati will deal 3 damage to Shalavi. And that'll end the round, it looks like. So, time for some resolution. Now, lane 2 is going to be interesting to see what that lead from the deck was. Although the lane number 2 is not the victory condition for Aethusium, it still does apply pressure, and if this game goes into later rounds, Nexus Breach does become an option. Meanwhile, we see that lane 1, a very strong victory for Aethusium there, winning it by 4, bringing the control zone now within damage range of Pythoner's power. So Pythoner needs to react to this next turn, because as we can see here, there are quite a few minions on Aethusium's side, as well as quite a few heroes ready to start breaking down that tower.
Yeah, and I think round 2 was a very good round for Aethusium. I think Python had a very good round 1, but Aethusium had a very, very strong round 2.
Yes. And to answer the question from the chat, can you place the outsider again once the dome is taken? Yes, you can. The problem is that the outsider, regardless of where you position it, would not be able to see Cytheru. And so that's why the weird plan was to push Shalavi into sight range.
So most outsiders can be moved on their turn with moves or skirmish actions. The outsider, and whenever you win control of the dome, you can place the outsider in a legal spot for them to place. The outsider says, place the outsider anywhere across to this dome's perimeter. The outsider cannot move. So it's the only outsider that cannot move other than when you place it at the beginning of the activation.
Correct. All right, meanwhile, as we mentioned, looking over at lane number 2, Kenway's presence... Oh, and it pains me to say that she actually did something here, but Kenway's presence allows that control zone to go all the way against the enemy tower, which means that tower right now, assuming that Kenway does anything over in that lane during turn 3, that tower is going to explode and make the Nexus vulnerable in turn 4.
Yeah, and it's possible that Pythoner just lets that happen, and says if this game goes, because that wouldn't happen until the end of round. He wouldn't lose the next until the end of round 4. So he might just say, "I think this game's going to end before then, and so I'm just going to ignore it."
That is true. As Ricardo once mentioned, the HP of your towers and your Nexus are also a resource, just like your hero's hit points and cards.
Ooh.
Oh!
That was the warship to heal.
Okay.
That was a warship. That was not when he wanted to flip that +3.
No, and that's also Glacial Rebirth, a very, very powerful card. But Shafathi will take 3 damage there.
That was Dance the Predator.
Oh, was that Dance the Predator? I'm sorry, I thought that was Glacial Rebirth.
That's a card that that Pythoner would have loved to have drawn.
Yes. That is unfortunate. Dance of the Predator, Shalavi's ultimate, especially in this scenario, extraordinarily useful. It allows her extreme mobility plus 2 instances of damage if she's shapeshifted. And given that there are a bunch of low armor targets and low HP targets, Shafathi's down to 9, Cytherea's down to 3, Shalavi would have loved to have used that to deal significant amount of damage to Aethusium's mages.
Yeah. And that, especially with that being a reaction, it's something that would be a very good response to something like a Last Judgment or something that will just kill Sethru right away without him having to use any actions.
Indeed. All right, now, as it stands here, Cytheru, as of right now, can only be moved adjacent to by one hero, so I would suspect that Shalavi would go next to him and then outright kill him, because in the unlikely event that Aethusium comes up with some sort of response to prevent Shalavi from killing him, that would at least allow Freyhill line of sight to then kill him on her turn. Or Astrida, because I guess Astrida's respawning, and I assume that given the board state, Astrida will respawn on Control Zone 1 side, although she might be used to try and stave off the assault on the tower that Kenwi is leading right now.
I think lane 1 is a much higher priority for him, as that's the breach side.
Mm-hmm.
So I think Astrida is going to go on to the right lane from our perspective.
Right. Yeah, because as it stands, and we have some cards. Okay, the Echo Dance.
That was discarded hand size Echo Dance.
See?
Kenwi's ultimate.
See,
so this that ultimate that it was just thrown away.
See, this, in my opinion, justifies my contempt for this hero. If you have a hero's ultimate in your hand and you're forced to discard because your hand size is too big, and you say, okay, I'm going to throw away this ultimate, that should tell you all you need to know. I rest my case. Kenwi fanboy and fangirls, please debate me. I will take on all 3 of you at once. Alright, so that being said, I'm a terrible person, I know. Alright, with that being said, I believe that takes care of all of the housework that we need for round number 2, so we're just going to go ahead and get set moving into round number 3, move the token over. Astrida is going to revive, so we're going to see where my Pythoner is going to place him. As you suspected, she is going to come in on our right side there into Control Zone 1 to help prevent this right side breach from occurring.
Yeah, and she is in the hex just adjacent to going to our left side, so she can go over there if she decides. I think that is a very strong position for her.
All right, we start off with a skirmish action, it looks like.
No, that's...
Oh, no, that's Pythoner's actions from...
I'm not sure when that's from. Is this a skirmish? He hasn't activated a hero yet.
No, he hasn't. Kenwi still has the active illusion, or the active icon, but that's Pythoner's skirmish.
Yeah, I'm not sure when that is...
We'll just passive-aggressively paste the active hero token down here, and just give him a hint. Oh! Cytheru is going to use a Nightmare Incarnate. Okay, interesting. Targeting Shalavi. So I think that Aethusium knows that Cytheru's days are numbered, and so he's going to try to get as much damage in before that comes to pass as he can. So Shalavi down to 7 HP. Remember that Onslaught is a victory condition. Aethusium has already killed one hero. All right, Freyhill's going to move in and deliver the old man to the grave.
So... I believe the Outsider's actions, by the way, was a worship to shapeshift Frail, an attack on Shafathi, and then he drew a card as the last action.
Mm-hmm. Oh!
If the card draw had been first, though, that would have been a lot better for him.
Now, this is interesting. Okay, that's why.
There we go.
That's why. Okay, that makes more sense. I was like, why would you not just go ahead and target Cytheru? But the answer is because Glacial Rebirth. So now Glacial Rebirth comes out, we'll go ahead and take a look. This is a very, very powerful. Freyhill's ultimate allows us to heal every friendly hero on the field 3 hit points, and if she's shapeshifted, you then heal enemy heroes 3 HP. Of course, we know that because she is shapeshifted, heals actually deal damage to the enemy, which means 3 piercing damage, and Cytheru is Gonu.
Yep, and that'll be 1 point on Onslaught.
Yep, 1 point onslaught now for Pythoner, so we are tied 1-1 on the onslaught.
Yep, and I'm gonna go. Pythoner just shuffled this card in.
Oh, that's going to be 2 now, because Shafathi is going to bite the dust. So all of a sudden, we are at match point on onslaught.
Yeah, that's a very powerful turn Raphael. Actually, that's interesting. In my quarterfinal matchup against Clinton, I used activated Frail first on turn 3 and used a Glacial Rebirth with Frail and killed 2 heroes on that activation to get to 2 points on Onslaught.
Wow.
The difference is I was down 2-0 on Onslaught at that point, and my Sheeta died right after.
Unlucky. So.
Actually, I used Frail as a second hero, not the first one. Anyway.
So, important to note now, Aethusium is now down 2 heroes, which means that he'll get to activate a hero. Pythoner will make his second move. Aethusium will make his second move. And then Pythoner will chain heroes 3 and 4 together. All right, so we see a lead here.
So, interesting. Aethusium has 1 card left in his deck. And we have not seen Shafathi's or Cytheru's ultimate.
Correct.
Cytheru's ultimate is Last Judgment, which is a reaction, but he chose to use Nightmares Incarnate instead.
No, Last Judgment's an action. It is not a reaction. I checked that one.
Oh, it isn't. Oh, never mind then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I was also thinking the same thing.
Sure.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing as well a little bit earlier, and then I was like, wait a minute, that would be absurdly powerful if you could cast Final Judgment as a reaction speed, because it basically gives you a 7-hex AoE blast anywhere on the field for 4 damage.
Yeah. And Shafathi's ultimate is a reaction, but
yes,
can only be used once all your heroes are exhausted, so was not something he could have used before he died. So I'm not sure if it was a coincidence or by design, but Joe or Pythoner killed both of the heroes that he hasn't seen the ultimates for.
Well, I mean, Cytheru was already weak as it was, and Shafathi was reasonably close down there. Yeah, he had, I think, 9 HP at the start of the round or whatever, or 7 HP, so a little bit of damage from Freyhill puts it in range, and then an easy kill from there. So, meanwhile, we see Akuti taking her turn here, so it looks like in this case, Aethusium is going to kind of steal his boots there. He did fire off an attack to kill off one of the minions, and a lead from the deck.
Yeah, and by the way, on Frail's turn right there, that was a Song of the Siren flip again. Street's ultimate is gone again.
But it was used to good effect. It did kill Shafathi.
Now, here's my question. I didn't get a chance to look before he shuffled. Do you know if we saw Avalanche?
I have not seen Avalanche. I don't believe we have. So Brilvar's ultimate Avalanche is a possibility. He does have 9 cards in hand.
Not the most we've seen him have in hand at once.
No, we've seen certain individuals that start with G and end with Aimslayer have quite literally their entire deck in their hand, courtesy of the infinite combos.
Yep. Something that is not possible anymore, so don't ask.
It's true.
But there was, I think a little over a week ago, we saw, sometime last week, Pythoner had 13 cards in his... Yeah, it was the quarterfinals of the August Clash. He had 13 cards in his hand at one time.
Ooh, I missed that game. That's incredible, though.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, you did miss that game. You commentated the one later in the day.
Gotcha, okay. Alright, meanwhile, it looks like Shalavi is now going to activate. So Shalavi going to skirmish, so looks like we're going to start beating up on Akuti here, perhaps. Try to make it kill number 3. Akuti will have only 1 armor, again, because of her illusion, so little bit more tanky than Sthetheru, but actually less tanky than Shafathi, because Shafathi has 18 hit points with 0 armor, 1 from the illusion. Akuti only has 16 hit points, as we can see here. Now, going to take 4 damage there from the attack. The skirmish was null and void, courtesy of her armor from her projection, but already down to 12 hit points, so with Astrida and Brilvar getting to activate and only Kenwi remaining on Aethusium's side, I'm a little bit concerned for Akuti at this point.
Yeah, that being said, if Akuti manages to survive this round,
oh yes,
and the first activation of next round, Aethusium will be coming back with both Shafathi and Sethru, both of his mages there. But I definitely agree with you. I don't like Aethusium's position right here.
Yeah, even with Kenwi, even if Kenwi does enough damage to destroy the tower, I think what you said earlier, okay, my Nexus is going to explode at the end of turn 4. If I end the game before then, I don't have to worry about it, and I don't think Pythoner has to worry about it right now. That double kill was a huge momentum swing. All right, so let's see. Kenwi is actually going to move. So, okay. Interesting positioning to move her there. I would have thought you would have moved her next to a minion and attacked it, but we're going to... Okay, this makes sense. I see where this is going here. So now she cannot be targeted from attacks there, and leads from the deck. So in all likelihood, that Nexus is about to be exposed, but again, I think Pythoner's position is better. Say what?
I don't think Pythoner cares.
No, I don't either. I'll be totally honest. At this point, I think Pythoner is very comfortably setting up for an onslaught victory. Whether he can do it this turn or has to wait until turn 4, I don't really think it makes that big of a deal. So now Python... Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
I think either Brilvar or Astrida stays in the dome. He's going to get the outsider with that, going to send the other over into that lane near Akuti. A little damage on with probably Astrida, yep. And then the outsider's also going to hit, and if Akuti's still alive after that, Akuti probably not surviving past the first activation of round 4. Granted, he could have some reactions and stuff that can keep her alive a little bit, but it's still not a great position.
I'm looking here. I don't think he does. The reactions that he has are Chasm, Psychic Shield.
Chasm's a good one.
Yes.
Psychic Shield's also a good one.
I mean, yeah, but not really. I mean, yeah, Psychic Shield will prevent you from Freyhill heals.
So
his options are... Oh, well, there is Refract, actually. There are Refracts. And so there might be something possible that he can copy. If Freyhill tries to play like a Nourish or something, the Refract might be useful there. He can use that to heal and essentially negate the Refract negate the Nourish damage. That's a possibility.
Yep. So meanwhile, Astrida moves into the lane and then casts a Present. That's what we're waiting for. I want to go back to something I was talking about a little before, though. Sure. I mentioned we were talking about the 13 cards that Python had, and then we mentioned the game that happened later that day. If you are liking Pythoner's deck right now and want to see some more of it, that game I was talking about later that game was the August Clash semifinals between me and Pythoner, where we both ran this deck in a mirror match. It was one of the more entertaining matches to watch. So that and I think a lot of people enjoyed it, so if you haven't seen that, I do recommend watching that one.
One thing I will warn you of, though, if you are going to watch that mirror match, especially near the end of round 1, I strongly advise you to either A, not be wearing a headset, or B, turn your volume way down. Otherwise, I cannot be held responsible for what may or may not happen to your eardrums.
You can be held responsible for it because you were the one who did it.
That's valid. That's a fair argument.
So we're having a Chasm from Shillavi. Is this good just to push a Cootie out of line of sight of the control token?
I have to assume so, because given her position right now, she's easily set up for just everybody wailing on her and depleting her HP. Pushing her down into that lower cover hex would kick her out, and then basically move that control token far enough away that Pythoner doesn't have to worry about it for the rest of the game. Nope. Wait. Okay, or we're just pulling...
I think
Okay.
the idea there is just to make it so that a Cootie is easier to... Oh, so that way Astrida can attack her.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. Without having to skirmish over. That makes sense.
Yeah, and he also, before using that, had 8 cards in hand, so he was probably going to be discarding it anyway, so I figured might as well use it.
Yep. Alright, well, there's Dance of the Predator again.
Yep, so we won't be seeing that ultimate again. So
Nope.
we've already seen 3 ultimates this round, 2 of them on Flips.
Yep. Alright, so Akuti down to 8 hit points now. So, with this situation, Pythoner is going to then lead from the hand. Okay, very nice. So...
Oh, actually, so... Pythoner used a presence and left that Dance of the Predator on top for that attack.
Mm-hmm.
So he was really just trying to get as much damage as possible.
Yes.
He just led from hand too. He has plenty of cards in hand to lead with, so he's just used the presence to try and maximize damage.
Right. So
he's just getting a Cootie off as quick as possible here.
Yep. Well, so the problem here is now, based on where Astrida's positioning is, and because of how the outsider's positioned, Brilvar can't make it. Okay, so he just doesn't even care. Okay, so Akuti is going to be set up to be killed off in turn 4, it looks like. So, Aethusium...
Avalanche.
You're right.
I'm calling it. Avalanche is coming.
All right, let's see what happens. Brilvar does have enough mana to use his ultimate. There it is. All right, Avalanche. So, Brilvar's new ultimate, since the last one was deemed brokenly overpowered, which to be fair it was, Avalanche allows you to push a hero and apply slow and move them up to 3 different times.
4 times. 3 additional times.
Right.
After the first.
Right. Sorry, I misworded that. Yes, you get to push them once and then up to 3 additional times for a total of 4. So Kenwi is about to get smacked around.
Does that make you happy?
It does. I do not condone violence in general, but as they say, every rule has its exceptions, and any situation where Kenwi is on the receiving end of any sort of unfortunate effect is always a good day to me.
Yeah. And so Kenwi is probably going to end up out of range.
Oh, okay.
I was just thinking, we could have a chasm as a response here.
Now,
I was going to finish my sentence first.
Right, so now, Chasm is actually going to push Kenwi into the dome. Now, what's important about this is Avalanche requires you to push an adjacent hero 1 hex and then apply slow, and then move Brilvar into the hex that they were in before you repeat the effect. Since Kenwi is no longer adjacent to him, Brilvar cannot go and push her around.
Yeah, I think Pythoner was very ahead, and that was probably a pretty greedy play. I think he should have just kept Rovar in the dome and led.
Yes, I would agree with that.
Didn't even need to lead, actually, but...
Now, that
probably
means...
just worship somebody, yeah.
Yep.
Could have just worshipped somebody and left him in the dome. Just he had the advantage. I think that was a little bit too greedy.
All right, so now Akuti plays the Nourish. Okay. So, here's the thing.
Not out of it yet.
No, but Akuti... well, first of all, we have to see how this dome flip. We have to do the other domes first. So we resolve Control Zone 1. That is a 2 from Aethusium with a 3 from Pythoner. Also, Astrida is boosting that with a Presence. Now, there are a ton of minions on Aethusium's side as well. So this is actually going to require a fair bit of math here. So let's see. So we have 3 heroes plus 3 on the lead. Oh, and Brilvar leads with a 0. Oh, no. So So, courtesy of Kenwi being gone, that tower is going to survive with exactly 1 hit point.
Now...
Oh, no, it's going to survive with 3. I'm sorry, because I did the math wrong because of
No.
the two minions.
Now, Pythoner
No.
had 5 cards in hand, so he's gonna have to draw. He's gonna draw 2 and then have to discard a hand size anyway. So
I forgot to
I
go
feel
back.
like he should have just led with hand there.
Yes.
I don't think leading from deck made a lot of sense.
I agree.
Especially when you get a 0.
Yeah, I agree. Like, you could have used that chasm as a lead there. Oh, no, that was the one that he discarded. I'm sorry. Yeah, I think that would have made more sense because with Brilvar there and the 2 minions, that actually did prevent tower destruction. As I mentioned before, math is very difficult. But,
Yeah.
yeah, that you could have easily killed off some of the minions because now Pythoner is facing down 8 minions versus his 2. And more importantly, as you mentioned, those mages are coming back. Also, the Outsider is going to make his appearance. So, with the Outsider being dropped there, we're going to start targeting Shalavi, who is not the healthiest hero herself. She's out of range of Brilvar, which means she doesn't get armor. There's a +3 on the flip, which means that's going to deal 6 damage. Combining a skirmish action, this could very easily wind up with Shalavi being dead here.
Yeah,
Because-
especially if there's some sort of like Nightmares Incarnate or something.
Well, you don't even need a Nightmares Incarnate. You can just skirmish him and deal 1 damage. Now, if Shockwave, you'll need a Shockwave to flip a 3 here as your final action. But there are 3 Psychic Shields in the deck. And a 0 on the flip there. No damage.
I expected a little bit more of that, but I was saying even if Shalavi is not quite. And Shalavi's not shapeshifted, so
Correct.
she can't revenge.
Correct.
So that's kind of what goes back to what I was saying before. I think Brilvar could have just shapeshifted somebody and stayed in the dome, and I think that would have been a little better. Like, so that was what happened there. We were talking before about how Pythoner really doesn't really care about that lane at all, but because he moved skirmish for the avalanche, he didn't have any other effects to get him back into the dome, so he was kind of stuck just leading over there, even though he didn't really care about it.
Correct. All right. Meanwhile, the 2 mages are going to make their return to the field here. And as you mentioned, we haven't seen Final Judgment, which means that if Cytherio gets a turn, he can rain hell down on any hexes that he chooses without needing line of sight. Shalavi is within kill range of Final Judgment. And so, if there is not a kill during Pythoner's turn to end the game, Shalavi could very easily be wiped out, and then we're at match point, next kill wins. Looks like Cytherio will respawn on the left side of the map, and Shafafi on the right side of the map. Splitting them up equally, which I think is a good idea. Cytherio is the weaker of the 2 heroes, and keeping him away from all of the big damage in Freyhill and Shalavi makes sense so that he can't get wiped out again.
Hold on a second.
Uh-oh.
I need to remind Python that he needs to discard.
Oh, yeah. Pythoner's got 7 cards in hand.
Oh, I think he just...
No, that was a flip, because he's still got 7 cards in hand. And apparently we're bringing in the Lord of the Ancestors for reasons that I'm not certain of.
I clicked on it by accident.
Okay. I was just curious if we were just going to randomly substitute in Outsiders. I figured there might be some new rule that we were invoking in the middle of the semifinals, which is, of course, always a great way to throw the players for the loop, is introduce new rules that they had no idea were coming. All right, so it looks like we've got the discard down to 6 now, so we are ready to begin turn number 4. Now, very likely this is probably going to be the final turn here. Mana is starting to fill to its brim. Lots of powerful cards can be cast here. The decks have been cycled through once by each player, so they've seen their decks, kept the cards that they wanted. Nobody has Sky Tier Drain. Uh-oh. Oh, dear.
That is Strength Over Pain. I'm
oh, boy.
curious why Frail didn't move adjacent to a cutie first for revenge triggers.
Right, because with 8 hit points, it's very likely that she dies here, but it is possible.
unless she is playing, or he might be playing around a charm.
That could be the case. All right, well, there's +1. So the first attack is going to deal 2 damage, which Freyhill's going to play Sacrifice. Okay, so there's the Psychic Shield. All right, so Psychic Shield is going to block off any attempts to heal Akuti to death. Very nice. We did mention those are some of the possible counter tools that Aethusium had, because otherwise this would have certainly spelt the end for Akuti here. Now, Psychic Shield is a manaless card, which means that Akuti still does have 4 mana points left for additional resources if she so chooses. That being said, looks like she takes the second attack.
So he responded to the Psychic Shield with a second sacrifice. And a third sacrifice! But that's not a nourish from Akuti is not going to be enough. That's only going to get her up to 4. So to back up, to everyone can follow it. So Pythoner used No, he was saying he had it, but so he was that was game.
Okay, yeah. That's game by Onslaught. 3 heroes defeated. Yep, there's all the ultimates that he had. So
what happened there at the end, though? So he did have the charm. So by Pythoner staying in the cover hex, that was a very smart play there. So to run everyone through what happened there at the end, because there was a little bit of a lot of things happening there. So
yes,
Pythoner used a sacrifice. So Akuti was at 5, so he used a sacrifice to drop Akuti down to 1. Aethusium responded with a Psychic Shield to block the sacrifice. Then Python responded with a second sacrifice on top of the Psychic Shield. She would take 4 damage before the Psychic Shield resolved.
Yes.
Dropping her down to 1. After the second sacrifice resolved, he then cast a third sacrifice. That one resolved. That happened all before the Psychic Shield resolved. Akuti died, and that was the game.
Correct. Yep, that shows you the importance of the stack.
Yes, very, very true.
All right. So with that being said, shall we hop over? Yep, I was just about to ask you. Let's go ahead and hop over to talk to the players.
Potentially, but it's definitely a.
I mean, in that case, I tried to remove. I had a charm and an exhaustion, so I just tried to remove the token, the worship token.
Good game, guys. That was awesome.
Yeah, I'm a bit frustrated, but it's a fair one. I mean, it's well played. I think I made 2 mistakes. I mean, 2 noticeable one. I don't remember the first one anymore. The second one was definitely not to bring Akuti closer here when both Sefu and Shafati were pretty low on life, because I had two charms in hand, so I could definitely forbid her to do what she did. But I didn't thought about that.
So Pythoner did have that chasm that he used with Shilvi, though, so I think he still could have pushed you away and Frail away from the cover hex. So I don't know.
No, it doesn't matter, because I would still. He wasn't in the cover hex. I was in the cover hex with Sefu. Shafati was here, and I was there, and I was just too far to charm her away so that the ultimate does no damage.
Right.
And that was a huge mistake. If I had been here.
Yeah. I thought you were talking about I thought you were talking about the end of the last round, but yeah.
No, it's just like that double kill wouldn't have happened, and if that double kill doesn't happen, the game is probably very.
I mean, at that point, I still did have the chasm that I could have pushed you back away, unless you got up to
because then I just move. Like I'm not gonna I'm here. I'm just gonna move take full move action and then get here.
Yeah, in that case, then I don't have a.
And I
have a way to stop that.
Yeah, that's why I'm a bit frustrated, because I thought about it. It was you should move with Akuti, and I was like, nah, that's not efficient. It's not efficient, but it just saves the game.
Yeah, you made a lot of.
At least on mine, that would have at least been less brutal than having it, getting charmed while trying to cast a sacrifice or something.
Yeah.
That would have changed. That would have changed the game a lot because
Sefu would have died. Sefu would have died anyway, but I would have saved Shafathi.
You would have saved Shafathi and been in a much better spot, especially with the lanes as kind of in your favor as they were.
Yeah, and also I had Shafathi ultimate in hand for the end of turn, and he had used no mana. So
nice.
That was also pretty good. Like it's really like, I told it like when it happened, I said, oh, that's game lost, because like I had so many things to like just keep pushing the advantage that just they all vaporized at once when that double kill happened.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, I went from a very good position to more or less nothing at all. While Kenry was still pressuring on the left lane, but basically she was alone.
Yeah.
I think honestly, my move to try to push Kanui away was probably just not worth doing. I probably should have just stayed in the dome because I opened myself up to obviously what just happened. I could have potentially done just gotten more damage in on a Kuti to make sure that with the million damage that I had in hand, that I would definitely be able to respond to whatever and definitely still have enough left over. Because like if I had flipped a +0, you'd have survived at 1, and then I guess I still had maybe a skirmish left. But just like making sure I got the outsider, get that extra few points of damage probably would have been the correct thing, because
definitely
the lane, even if you kill the tower, like you dealt tower damage anyway, and so it didn't really matter.
No, it doesn't matter
in that point, like whether or not my tower's there.
Yeah.
So just.
Did you saw something else, Kirito and Commander?
I was gonna say something. I don't remember what it was, but yeah, that play with Brovar there, we were talking about that one. That definitely seemed like a greedy play. I think you should have played it safe. Just kept Brovar in the dome, probably shapeshifted Shilvi or something, and just make sure you had the dome.
Yeah. No, I think that would have been much better.
Yeah, I was surprised that you didn't shapeshifted Shilvi at that point.
Oh, I remember what I was gonna say. I don't know if you realize this, Pythoner, but I checked the discard before you killed his heroes. He had both Shafathi's and Sethu's ultimates in his hand, and those were the 2 heroes you killed.
Yeah, that's what I said. Yeah. That was my comment when I said like I had everything in hand to push the advantage, and when both died, it just made like the whole thing vaporize.
That was really brutal.
Also, I was a bit frustrated because just after, like the one card I drew just after the last outsider action on Shilvi was the Psychic Shield. So it's like, okay, one card difference, you would have been dying. That wouldn't have mattered at that point anyway. But that's actually a pretty good game where. Like it's a pretty good example where Psychic Shield is actually not doing anything. I got 3 of them in opening hand, and you're like, eh.
Yep, we saw them all go into the discard. We're like, well.
Yeah, I was a bit reluctant to throw away the 3rd one, but then I was like, it doesn't matter. Like, yeah, sure, there is fail, but like early in the game, it's not gonna have so much impact. Especially I had like an exhaust and 1 charm, I think, so it's like, in worst case, I'm just gonna like remove the shapeshift for a turn or 2, and then the Psychic Shield was really useless. And just like, let's cycle them as quickly as possible to try to get some damage out. And I think that would have happened eventually because they were coming back, and there is only 19 cards and 2 turns left, so this damage would have happened at some point. But that's the game.
One thing I do want to say, Pythoner, that last play with Frail where you had a strength over pain and 3 sacrifices, and you didn't skirmish up to get revenge triggers. Yeah, at first I was like, why'd you do that? I'm like, oh, he's probably playing around charm, and apparently he had 2 charms in hand, so that worked out.
I had 2.
That definitely worked out real
exactly.
well.
So I mean, I guess it depends on exactly when he casts the charm, because I have 3 sacrifices.
Yeah, but I think
might still just punch through with enough damage.
I mean, with the
if I get
I don't think so. Like with the Psychic Shield, the nourish
Psychic
and the
shield
double
and
charm,
charm.
I don't
yeah,
think you do.
with everything,
Yeah.
I probably couldn't have.
Yeah, it
The
was.
thing is,
And yeah, so
if
that's
you
what
are
I was
even a
thinking.
little-
Is like I really wanted to, but it's like I feel like I was pretty sure I had enough, and it was more important to make sure I don't get charmed, because if I get charmed, then her health just goes back to full.
Right.
And I'm back at square one, and probably in a pretty bad spot.
Yeah, that's exactly.
Yes.
Also, if
he just has a bunch of heals and it just like survives at like 4 health, I still have Shillavi, I still have a stride, I still have
No, Shillavi would have been dead. First player was going for her with Shafat.
Yeah.
No way she can do anything.
I still had at least a stride to at least try to get in a little bit of extra damage if you survived at like 1 or 2 or something.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
I figured it was more important to play around charm, which would be the most devastating.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and in that situation also, if you go for the skirmish and you come a little short, then a fair number of those sacrifices turn into heals, and you put yourself in a much worse position.
Yeah, I mean, it really shows that it was like a huge mistake not to move that equity here when, here when Shefati was there, and like that was really the one thing I should have done at that point.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You made a lot of very good plays, I guarantee you. It was very obvious to us and anybody watching that it was very high level play from both of you.
Well, that's pleasant to hear at least.
I don't remember.
I mean, it was a really enjoyable game from my view. It was really nice.
At this point, it's maybe a little bit hard to see. One thing I was afraid of at first, and I think in the end you end up putting Satheru in the bush, which I think was probably better. I was at first thinking you were potentially going to put Akuti here or something, and then I wouldn't really be able to get around to kill Shafati, who I think was up here at that point or something like that. But I think in the end, putting him in this bush was better because I was able to take the dome, and
yeah, I wanted him
that
safe
meant that
from the outsider.
If Satheru wasn't on a kind of a bush at the edge, I could have killed with the outsider, which was
Yeah.
I was like, okay, I'm just going to go for the dome, I'm going to kill Satheru, and then after I had after a while, I was like, wait a second, I can't actually do that, which I realized was going to be awkward. But fortunately, I ended up getting the alts with everything kind of was good enough in the end.
Yeah, it's the amount of damage that Frail out that's just like feels absurd.
We were actually
It's-
talking about a very interesting play with the Sether at 3 HP. You had Shillavi here. If you had placed the outsider here, you could have used the shockwave to push and damage Shillavi to get a revenge trigger.
That would have been. Yeah, we were.
Believe me, I considered it.
That's so awesome. Like
considered it.
we're like, this is such a bad idea, but it would be so cool.
Yeah.
That was exactly my thought process. Like, this is probably almost certainly the wrong play, but I don't want it.
You lose the match, but you win the people's hearts. Like, what's more important at this stage?
Well, you don't necessarily lose the match. Depends
That's
on the
true.
flip. Like, he has 3 HP, so he can still die pretty.
That's true.
Yeah, and you had 1 armor too from the Akuti illusion, so he would have needed to flip a +3 on it anyway.
Oh yeah, true.
Right.
But anyway, that was a great game. Congratulations on making it to the semifinals, Aethusium,
Yes.
and good luck in the 3rd place game whenever
Yes.
that happens.
I have no idea.
Congratulations, Pythoner, on making it to the finals of the September World Series qualifier. Good luck in the finals, and we'll have the other semifinals coming up in about 2.5 hours, I believe.
No, 90 minutes. It's at 9 p.m.
Are you sure?
1.5.
Are you sure about that?
All right. So since I'm the host here, this is where I boot Corrido. Yes. No. It is 9. It is 9 p.m. EST. So for those of you who are joining us live, I have successfully navigated the time zones for once. The next semifinal will be available in about 90 minutes. For those of you who are watching on the replays on the YouTube channel, you'll just want to click the coming up next video for semifinal match number 2.
Yep, and that'll be between Clinton and Zambo. The winner of that will play Pythoner in the finals whenever they schedule that match, and we'll be sure to let you guys know. And the loser of that game will play against Aethusium in the 3rd place game. And
we'll let you know when that one is as well. We'll bring both of those games live whenever they happen.
Yes.
That's nice, thanks, guys. Thank you very much for streaming.
Thank you very much, and again, congratulations to both of you. You both went very far in the tournament. Obviously, you still have the third place match and then the finals, so each of you have one game left. Good luck to those. Good luck into those. I can't speak at all. Good luck.
Yeah, thanks.
Good luck in those games. And,
There we go. Thank you.
With the potential to win more Sky Terror shards for
Yes.
Aethusium's case, and for Pythoner's case, a qualification to the World Championships.
Yes.
Yeah, good luck, man.
Thanks.
All right. Well,
And we'll hope to have you guys back with us in 90 minutes.
all right. Thank you very
see
much
around,
for joining.
bye.
Thank you very much for joining us, everyone. I'll see you on the next tour of duty.